everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And as we have been starting a lot of these episodes with music news, let's open with music news. Music news, music news, music news. Joy, you open the music news.
All right, so it's kind of random, but I was just kind of perusing the internets and the Googles as one does. And I found out Depeche Mode is going to do a world tour in 2023, and they're coming out with an album. And I thought this was kind of interesting because the name of the album is Memento Mori, and I'm probably not saying that right, but basically it means we're all going to die.
Oh.
I'd say that. But apparently, I mean, he thought it was, remember that you must die. That's the actual translation. And people thought that, so they recently had Andy Fletcher passed away, who co-founded Depeche Mode.
Okay.
So basically, they said, well, we had wrote the title before he passed away of that album, and that's going to be the world tour name as well. And people are like, well, since he passed away, do you feel like you should change it? And I thought it was cool. He said, no, I think it cemented it for us. And I thought that was a really interesting way to say it. So if you are a Depeche Mode fan, it looks like their new album, I couldn't find an official date, but they're saying spring of 2023. And then they're going to do a world tour, which also starts in spring. And apparently they normally start all of their world tours in the UK, but they decided they wanted to do the United States this time to change it up. And this will be their 15th album. And the last time they did it the last album was 2017.
Oh, wow. I mean, Depeche Mode are one of those bands that people really love. I mean, they have such a good catalogue of songs. And I don't know if their music is that widely played generally, but certainly the fan base is huge. And when I see on Twitter and people post a Depeche Mode album, they're like, wow, this one, and it's got this song on it. And, and fans of Depeche Mode are very big fans, if you know what I mean. It's rare that you just get, oh, they're all right. People seem to really love Depeche Mode. Yeah,
it would seem to me that there's a cult following at Depeche Mode. Now, most people know a few of their, personal Jesus, and I think the Marilyn Manson one helped kind of cement that as like a big thing, or just can't get enough, But there seems to be a pretty big cult following, and apparently there's enough that they felt 5 years later they would have a strong record sell and be able to sell at a world tour.
Well, fantastic. Well, I'm glad they're back out there. I'm sure they probably felt stifled somewhat by the COVID lockdown. So even if they wanted to do it, they couldn't do it. So now that they're ready to do it and they're honoring their fallen bandmate, everything is coming together. Now, I do have a couple of Depeche Mode fun facts.
Oh, what's that?
Well, first things first, did you know where the name Depeche Mode comes from?
No. It sounds like depressed mode, but I don't know what that means.
Depeche Mode is a French fashion magazine.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I forget the name of the guy who's the singer band leader. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But he was in Paris or somewhere like that, and he saw that magazine on a newsstand, and he thought, well, that's a really cool name. So that's what they called the name of the band. And many years later, he gave an interview to Depeche Mode, even though it was a fashion magazine.
And his name is Dave.
That's it. I knew it was Dave or David something, but I couldn't think of his last name.
And it's the other guy that's currently a member is Martin, and then there was Andy, and I think they just passed away, and there was a few other members, but I don't remember their names.
There we are. And another interesting fun fact, I forget the name of the song, and I'd have to give it a goog to find out, but it's one of their songs from the very early 80s. The video from that song was shot in Woolworths in Hounslow High Street.
Of course. I should have predicted that.
And I think there's also another scene where it was shot at Hounslow British Rail Station, but predominantly it was shot in Woolworths in Hounslow. So there we are. Straight in. Boom. Bingo card.
If anyone ever uses this as a drinking game, I think that they're going to sue us. So we're probably going to give them alcohol poisoning. Me and Tim do not condone that.
we view it often on Zoom calls with people, but we don't necessarily condone that.
Yes, we are not condoning. If you're playing it, just be, what's the word, Tim? What do we say? Do it responsibly.
There we are. Yes. Imbibe responsibly.
There we are. And, maybe add a few glasses of water in. All right. Anything else about Depeche Mode?
No, that's all I have for Depeche Mode. But I do have another story topic that came up this week. So, as you know, the music industry is trying to find ways of making extra revenue because the bulk of their revenue now is streaming, and people who collect physical media are quite small. You know, the vinyl thing has sort of kicked back up again, but for the most part, most people are streaming, downloading, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. But there seems to be a renaissance of the box set where you take a classic album, maybe one that's 20, 30, 40 years old even, and then you re-release it, and then you put various outtakes, alternative versions. You put a glossy brochure in there. You might put a live DVD in there and stickers and postcards and some other knickknacks to make a set. And normally these sets are pretty good value. I've got the Queen News of the World box set. Comes with a really thick hardback book. I think it had 5 or 6 CDs in there, a DVD. It had the record on there, and it was a very special pressing of the record because it was an analog to analog transfer. And I think it was $100, $120, something like that. But as I said, it has that really thick, like archive grade paper in it. It's really good quality. And normally when you're paying a couple of $100 for a set like this, it's normally incredibly exhaustive what you get in there. Anyhow, Guns N' Roses this week have announced the Use Your Illusion Super Deluxe box set. Okay. You can have this on audio CD for $259, or you can have the vinyl record version for $499. Now, this is where the controversy is on this set. You would think for that kind of money, Axl Rose is going to deliver it to your house and sing Patience in your living room. But no, what do you get in there? I'm just taking the CD version. 7 CDs, a DVD, some postcards, and not even a thick book. That's it.
I kind of loses its fun if there's nothing unique or creative in it.
Yeah, and the vinyl record version, it has, I think it's 6 albums or 7 albums or something like that. But basically, both the sets, all it has is Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, the remastered versions, a bunch of outtakes, and 2 live concerts. And that is it.
That takes away so much fun, though, because I know exactly what you're talking about, where you get some little stickers or like a poster or something unique to that. And while that is all fine and dandy that you get those CDs and that DVD, it I don't know, it makes it lose its fun. Also, like you said, Axl Rose better be hand delivering me that $400 vinyl.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the silly thing about it is that if you want everything, you, in addition to the box set, you have to buy the single CD releases, because the single CD releases have yet another live concert that's not even in the box set.
Oh, no, thank you.
No, exactly. And a lot of people were criticizing this online just because of how incredibly poor value this is, because there's not much in it for that much money.
It just seems like a cash grab, honestly.
Absolutely. Well, and You know, Metallica are all about making the money too. But let me just tell you, let's give you a little bit of a comparison. So, like Metallica currently have the Metallica Deluxe box set remastered, and this is the Black Album, Enter Sandman, Sad But True, and all that kind of stuff. And that is available as a vinyl record box set. It's $193. Okay, which again, it's pretty expensive.
But it's better than $400.
Yeah, but let me tell you, just from a music perspective, what your $193 gives you. It gives you the remastered Black Album on a double LP. It gives you a Sad But True picture disc, 3 live LPs, 14 CDs, and 6 DVDs. And an MP3 download card of all the audio, tall laminates, a lanyard, pictures, guitar picks, lyric sheets, and a 120-page hardcover book. Now, if I'm paying $193, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting multiple formats, everything ever, all that cool stuff. I think that's pretty good value. I would pay that. But
I mean, it makes more sense for sure.
Yeah, but you compare that to the Guns N' Roses thing, which is like 7 discs and a DVD and some stickers and a poster. I mean, it's just not worth that.
I mean, it seems like whoever is behind this, because I'm sure it's not the band personally doing their marketing, you know what I mean, their brand or whatever. They didn't really think that through. And I understand post-COVID, a lot of people want money, find other ways to make money. Because, well, you were talking about, everything streaming. It's also, concerts. That's another big form of revenue. And COVID really hurt a lot of musicians and maybe older musicians who don't have the Beyoncés of the world and stuff. Now they have makeup brands and clothing brands and all this stuff. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't think Guns N' Roses is going to be making mascara anytime. I don't know.
No, but they're currently touring. They have a lot of merch. I'm sure they're not necessarily hurting financially. I think you're right. I think it's probably a record company decision. But I don't know if the CD set was $50, you think, it's all right.
Yeah.
But the CD set being that much and the vinyl set being $500, it's like, whoa.
Well, and by the way, if Axl Rose ever starts selling eye makeup, let me know. I'm going to buy that.
Well, I think he does actually wear a little bit of makeup on stage. So, I mean, maybe there is an Axl makeup brand coming. I don't know.
If next week they come out with one, I'm going to be like, they listened to the podcast. All right. Do you have any other music news for us?
Yeah, I have one last thing to wrap up music news. And this was the very sad news that we got this week, that Loretta Lynn passed. She was 90 years old. Country music superstar Loretta Lynn left this earth, unfortunately.
And I kind of grew up with the 90s country. I did the 90s country episode. And, I mean, she's 60s, 70s. But she, I grew up in the older country. So, I mean, I heard You Ain't Man Enough, or You Ain't Woman Enough, Coal Miner's Daughter is one of my mom's favorite, Louisiana Man, Mississippi Woman, all of those songs when I was a when I was a kid. I don't know where that came from. But you're looking at country. That's a famous one. And they did a tribute to Loretta Lynn on one of the openings of the CMAs, I don't know, sometime probably 2009 or something. And it's got a bunch of famous country artists. And if you've never heard it, it's actually really nice. And she's in the audience. And I mean, she was in her 80s, so you can tell time has taken a toll on her. But it was really nice to see. And if you've never watched it, it might be a good thing for you guys to go out and take in her honor.
Exactly. I think she played at the Jefferson Center in Roanoke not that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe.
Wow.
I think so. She was out there getting it done until recently. But I mean, 90 is a good age. I mean, she lived a very eventful life and brought a lot of pleasure to a lot of people through her music and songwriting. So we respect you, Loretta Lynn. Rock in peace.
My tongue twisters just affected Tim as well.
Yeah.
It's usually me who's doing that. All right. Well, I guess we should get to the topic now.
Absolutely. So this week, it's Joy's turn to pick the topic. I don't know what she's picked. And over to you, Joy.
All right. So I'm going to give a little bit of background here because I had one topic that I need to do a little bit more research on and flesh out because I want it to be very historically accurate. So I did a little bit of Googling, as one would say. And I found out today is National Be Nice to Each Other Day.
Oh, okay.
So me and Tim always say be kind to each other when we part ways on the podcast and things like that. So I thought it was kind of nice. It's kind of a no-brainer. We should all be kind and nice every day, but it's not that easy in a complicated world, right? So I just picked songs. Now, some of these I took a little creative liberty because there was only so many songs. Nice, kindness, happiness, that kind of thing. And I just wanted to name some songs that maybe if you're having a rough time or whatever, you listen to them and they'll put you in a positive light. Though, to be fair, one of those, I'll tell you to skip that one because while it does say kind in the title, I don't think it would bring you any happiness.
Okay.
So that's just what I wanted to do this week. Also, for those who don't know, our 100-year-old or 17-year-old or 30-year-old podcaster on this episode had a birthday yesterday.
Yay! I was either 100, 17, 50,000 or 48, maybe the latter.
It is what it is, But yes, I just wanted to give him a special birthday message. So with that, we will get into the episode. Now, I picked some songs that I just wanted to talk about. They're pretty popular songs that I know at least most of them Tim will know. And if, Tim, you think of any happiness, kind, whatever songs, throw it in there. You're in bands. You know lots of music, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
So my first one is a band that Tim loves, and I haven't heard this song in forever, but it has an amazing bass line. It's Queen, and it's A Kind of Magic.
Yeah, A Kind of Magic is an absolutely fantastic song. It is a Roger Taylor song, and it's from the album of the same name.
It was fantastic. Like, I hadn't heard it, I don't know, in years. And I played all these songs, to like get myself ready for the episode. And I had forgot how good the bass line is in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, John Deacon is a monster bass player. I mean, like, people talk, about Flea and Jaco Pastorius and Geddy Lee as, being the, the titans of the bass world. John Deacon, he's up there, but he never gets the credit. He doesn't have that kind of kudos that those people do. People talk about John Entwistle, but they never talk about John Deacon. And and not only is his songwriting is amazing, but his bass playing and bass lines are superb.
Well, and if you know anything about him, you'll know one of his songs that he may have wrote for Queen's going to come up later in this list. But with that being said, I was looking at pictures of him, and I swear to you, Tim, we've talked about this many times. If he walked past me now on the street, I would not recognize him at all. He looks like every elderly British man.
Yeah, he does.
And I would know.
The thing is that whenever you look at any pictures of Queen, all the way through the ages, every one of them looks like a rock star except John Deacon. And John Deacon looks like someone who's helping out in the photo shoot, just making up the numbers.
He really does. Besides the hair, but like he's always wearing in the famous one Wibbly concert, he's got the mob jeans on and like the t-shirt with the buttons and the big hair. And then even as he gets older, he's always very, I don't know. He never stood out. I mean, he's an amazing player, but yeah, I was looking at pictures of him thinking, I swear to you, and every one of the pictures he has a cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of current day John Deacon. He lives in Putney, and he retired from the world of music. He sold all his equipment, and he just wanted to live a happy, peaceful life with his wife and children. That's all he ever wanted. And in fact, during the last tour, the Magic Tour, he actually tried to walk off the tour and was going to the airport, and they had to convince him to come back to finish the tour. He was done. He said, this is not the life for me. I just want to go home.
Well, and I read an article about him, and it said some people kind of refer to him as a recluse. And since he's kind of been very recluse for 30 years, he's worth about 105 million in euros, I guess, whatever, pounds, whatever it is.
Pounds.
Whatever. Tim. What is it you guys call it with a Q?
Quid.
That. Whatever it was, the article was about. There's he's just worth quite a bit of money, and he just enjoys being a homebody and likes his family.
Yeah, that is all he's ever wanted. And apparently he's given Brian May and Roger Taylor to do what they want with the Queen brand and the songs. He's not fussed. It's just, I think they contact him every year or so, or 18 months or so, if there's some kind of business decision that has to be made. And it's yep, no, that's fine. Okay, I'll sign that. And then that's it. And he really wants nothing else to do with it.
I mean, that's fair. At least I like that they still include him, even though they probably know what his answer is going to be. That's nice.
Yeah. I mean, he's still a director of Queen Productions Limited, but, he's not.
Well, I mean, I kind of assumed, considering he's still got that net worth happening.
Oh, I mean, yeah, letting Brian May and Roger Taylor re-release stuff and tour. I mean, he's still getting royalties from that. I mean, he's not stupid.
Exactly. So the next song is a person that everybody has heard of if you're even around remotely late 70s, 80s. It's Robert Palmer, and it's every kind of people. Kinda. That's what I said. I took a little creative liberty. It says kinda with an A, but I went with it because it says kind. And I'll add an extra fact here. It's from his fourth solo album called Double Fun. And fun is like kindness-ish.
Exactly. The thing is about Robert Palmer, a lot of people only know Robert Palmer from his 80s outputs, Simply Irresistible, Addicted to Love, and those iconic videos with the models in, with the how they were all dressed in those videos. And people know him from that, but they don't realize that it's got a kind of blues and soul music that he was doing all the way back in the 70s. We do a song in the band, Sneaking Sally. I didn't even know that was a Robert Palmer song until I started looking into it and learning the song. And I was like, oh, okay. And then you go back a little bit and look at back some of Robert Palmer's previous material from back in the era, and it's really good stuff.
So the irony of you saying that was I kind of hadn't really gave it much thought, but I was like, oh, these are his 70s albums. Let me look into it. Because you're right. I mean, Simply Irresistible, that kind of stuff is what I know. It's the very 80s thing. He did a lot of kind of almost like like you said, bluesy disco stuff that I was not aware of. So this song, Every Kind of People, was written by former Free bassist Andy Fraser. Fraser recorded his own version of the song, but it was never released. But Palmer heard it and liked it. So basically he went ahead and took that song and put it out there. But on this exact album, and written by the same person, Andy Fraser, he also did a version of Bad Case of Loving You, Doctor Doctor. Didn't know that. I was like, and I had never heard that, but it works so well for his like his sound. It's a great cover for him, and I had never even heard it.
Yeah, I've actually played Doctor Doctor, Bad Case of Loving You. I played that in many cover bands. That is a staple of UK cover bands.
Well, I knew the song, but I don't know that I knew that was Robert Palmer. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I ever connected the dots. So, I mean, Bad Case, it's a famous song, but I would have never known, and I had no clue it was written by the same person. But apparently, the album cracked the Billboard 100, pending at number 45, with the success of Every Kind of People and then 2 follow-up singles. And there was another one that was on here. What was it? You're Gonna Get What's Coming, which was written by Robert Palmer, and then he wrote it. It became a single and a hit for Bonnie Raitt later on. It actually was, he recorded a version, wrote it himself, but then it didn't really go anywhere. So when he did it, and apparently Bonnie Raitt's version was a top hit.
There we are. As we all know, Bonnie Raitt is fabulous.
She is fabulous. I love Bonnie Raitt. And she's going to come up in my next topic. Also, she has fabulous hair. I'm very jealous of her hair.
Absolutely. She has some sort of strawberry blonde ginger hair, and then she has like a kind of a grey bit in it, and it's so iconic, Bonnie Raitt.
It really is. Well, we will talk about her more because she's going to come in my next episode, but I agree with Tim. And she's got, she's been a musician, just like we were talking about with him forever. I don't know how many people know some of her older stuff, but 60s, 70s?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she has so much output, and it was only sort of her late 80s back that people discovered her when she'd been making amazing music. And she is one of the finest slide guitar players of all time.
Yes, and that's kind of what I thought too. I was like, when I was just thinking about her career, I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of parallels in what Tim's saying about Robert Palmer as well, because she's one of those people, she had immersed success during a certain genre or a certain time and decade, but she had tons of other hits too, and there's probably songs that maybe she's done that I wouldn't even associate it with her.
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, in the realm of slide guitar, you think of Duane Allman, you think of Bonnie Raitt, and you think of Derek Trucks. I mean, there are other great slide guitarists, but when you think of the titans of slide guitar, they are the ones. But certainly Bonnie Raitt's style is very unique on the slide, and she is such a great guitar player.
Exactly. I can agree with that. So this one, you're going to be like, Joy, that doesn't say kind, but think about the context of the song. It's Everybody Hurts by REM. And the reason I picked it is because it's a song telling you everybody has bad days, everybody hurts, and trying to support your friend. Plus, we've talked about REM many times on this podcast, so why not bring it back up?
Exactly. Well, you said you cannot go wrong with REM. And I was always a casual REM fan, but my thrifting adventures have led me into purchasing a lot of REM albums. They seem to be those albums that are in every thrift shop. And certainly Monster by REM. I mean, like if you wanted to create a collection of Monster CDs, it would be incredibly easy to have like the United States Strategic Reserve of them, because every thrift shop has got like 5 copies of it.
That's probably that's probably true, because even when I was thrifting, I've seen it there many times before, just one right after the other. So ironically, my twin sister tends to put on podcasts while she's going back to school. So she's been working on schoolwork, and she's been putting a lot of our old episodes on because she just like has it on a mix, and some of our episodes come in. And she was just talking to me about an episode where we were talking about REM. She's like, I've never really been that big into them, but since you guys keep talking about them, I'm probably going to have to give them a listen. But I don't know, the opening to this is so pretty when he's like, when your day is, it's such I don't know any other song that has that really nice sound. And this would have been early 90s for REM?
Yeah, I think it's early 90s. Is it off Automatic for the People? I'm not sure. Is that
yes,
kind of the
it
era?
is.
It is, yeah. Because I was listening to that not long ago, and that's actually a really good stellar album, top to tail.
Well, there you go. There's Tim's recommendation if you're looking for new albums, everybody.
New albums that were released 30 years ago.
For you. We're talking early 90s. It's a newer vibe.
Sure.
Next, I mean, I would rather, here's my advice to the people. Take our album advice before you take me and Tim's advice on financial planning and things like that. We said in the other episodes.
Yeah, you see, our music advice is you can listen to it and get on with your day. But if we're rattling on about something else, I mean, just take that advice with a pinch of salt.
It's just remember, we're not necessarily experts in those fields. Now, I mean, the quality conversations have been on this podcast about how do they set the temperature of their ovens in the UK. Tim's financial advice and how cars work. All right. So the next one is an artist that, once again, everybody knows, a favorite of ours. And this song does not say kindness in the title. I kind of, like I said, but when you hear the song, you'll know why. It's Heal the World, Michael Jackson.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has that kind of heal the world, make it a better place for you, me, and the entire human race.
And so while we and Tim have said many times, we will separate the artist from the art. And Michael Jackson is on this list more than once because he had a really big spell where he spent a lot of time trying to help people do better, be better, think better, whatever it was. Even if it was self-gratifying, I don't know, but he really has a way with his music of trying to do more than just sing a song.
Absolutely. And did you know that we're coming up for the 40th anniversary of Thriller?
Yes, I did. I got a little thing about it. I was reading it the other day, which is kind of crazy to me that it's been 40 years, but...
Yeah, because I remember buying the Thriller 7-inch single in W.H. Smith's in Hounslow.
Now, Tim, you're going to confuse them more about your age. They're going to be like, so now he was here and he was doing this. It's going to be like, you know, like on when someone's solving a crime and they're putting little dots on different things. They got the board behind them, their murder board. There's going to be one where they're like, somebody's trying to track Tim's age. Well, I think he said he was here. And he got lost in the channel tunnel on this day.
There we are. But anyway. The other funny thing about the Thriller thing is that I was chatting on Twitter with our friends at the Infectious Groove podcast, which is actually, again, a fabulous podcast, and you should check that out. And they're big Michael Jackson fans. And apparently Michael Jackson's estate have remastered the Thriller video because it was shot on film. But the version that's on YouTube, which has 1 billion views or something, is not great quality. It doesn't actually look that crisp.
It really doesn't. And
some people have done an AI upscale, which is what that is you take old footage, you put it through this software, and it uses artificial intelligence to make it look better. And most of the time that works really well. And they've tried to do it with Thriller, but it doesn't really work because it's kind of dark, so there's not a lot of information to work with. But apparently Michael Jackson's estate have a 4K upscale of it ready to go, but they just haven't released it. So everyone's hoping that for the 40th anniversary, they will release the 4K version of it. But
that would be cool. So the thing, though, I always kind of thought that was supposed to be on purpose. Like, maybe this was me, but I thought it was an artistic choice the way it kind of looks because I thought it was supposed to look like an old school horror kind of thriller movie.
Well, do you know what? Hannah said exactly the same because I was saying that isn't it about time that they upscaled this? And she said, yeah, it looks like an old horror film, but I don't watch films and I don't watch horror films, so I never got that. But you and her are probably correct.
I mean, I thought that's what they were going for. I will say it is a little grainier. You could still make it, clearer and keep that kind of vibe. But I always assumed that it was supposed to be giving us like a 70s, the tomato, the blob kind of crazy thing. And they're wearing like the Letterman jackets, which kind of indicates the 50s to me, and the clothing styles and the pieces. So maybe I made that up, but I don't know who directed the Thriller video.
I think it's John Landis, I think.
Okay, well, don't come from the internet because I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if the guy who directed the Thriller video listens to our podcast, we'll be happy to have you on for the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to discuss your artistic choices of the video, we would be delighted to have you on.
Sadly, we don't remember your name at this exact moment, but I promise you, we'll be very excited.
I think it's, I'm going to give this a Google. I could have sworn it's John Landis.
Googling live on air. I'm sure it probably is, but for some reason my mind is gone blank.
Why is it you? Oh, here we go. Wikipedia. Yeah, directed by John Landis.
See, Tim, you knew all along. So smart. Phil was screaming at his radio saying, duh.
Yeah, of course it's. Who else would it be?
Who else were you thinking? All right, so back to Heal the World. It was released in 1991, and it's on the Dangerous album. So it's kind of in his later career, and I think he kind of took a turn for that, trying to improve the world in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, it's a great song. The music video is cool, too. Have you ever seen the music video to it, Tim?
I have, but not recently.
It's just, showing a lot of different things around the world and people being kind to each other. So, if you've never seen it, I would give it a gook. All right, on to our next one. Once again, another song that the topic is, like, in the song. It's The Pretenders, I'll Stand By You.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders. I mean, again, another titan of music. I mean, you think of the career that Chrissie Hynde has had and the music that she's created. And in fact, she was on the bill of the recent Taylor Hawkins concert from Wembley.
Yes, I was just watching that, and I was thinking about that, and that's what made me think of all of those connections came to mind, because she's one of those people that I don't know as much about her as I'd like to, but the more I find out about her career, the more I realize she's stellar.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the Pretenders were a very particular band when they started as the Pretenders, and I think some of the key members of the Pretenders died, but really now anything with Chrissie Hynde on it is the Pretenders.
Yeah,
she chooses who the musician she wants to work with, but really she is the Pretender, if you like.
Yeah, I think the only other remaining member is the drummer.
I think you could be right with that.
Yeah. And so I think the drummer, whose name is like Martin Chambers, is still the other remaining member. But pretty much her, they filled in like a bass player and a session person in some way. But the Pretenders, and she's like into, the hippie counterculture. I'm fairly certain she's vegan. And so she's fantastic. I know that she was American whenever she's an American, but she moved to the UK and lives in the UK now.
I believe so, yeah. I think she's lived in the UK for many, many years.
And then I was looking up information on her because, like I said, she's somebody I don't feel like I know enough about. So I kind of went on a rabbit hole. And she tried to start a group with Mick Jones from The Clash at one point. It never worked out.
Okay.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that would have been pretty interesting. I don't know. She, like you say, she's got that kind of like punk attitude about her.
Yeah, and they said at one point she tried to convince Steve Jones and then Johnny Rotten to marry her to get a work permit.
Oh.
I thought that was interesting too, because she wanted to stay in the UK.
Well, I will tell you, if you are a US citizen and you want to reside in the UK, and likewise the other way around, unless you marry into it or you have millions of pounds or dollars, it's incredibly hard to do.
That's fair. So basically, Rotten offered to go to the registry and do this and other things that we won't mention, but he pulled out, and Sid Vicious volunteered to take his place. Upon arrival at the registry office morning, they found it closed for an extended holiday, were unable to attend the following day due to Vicious making a court appearance, because of course he was. And so the whole thing fell apart.
Oh dear.
I thought that was hilarious. I just wanted to bring that up. Anyway, I just love that if all the things of Johnny Rotten, it's like, oh, wait, oh, yeah, I could marry you, but, oh, we can't do it this day. Well, we're out of luck. I'm going to jail.
But well, I do want to get back, maybe, if the office is open.
Maybe. And I don't know why. That just cracked me up. And it's kind of funny because, like, I guess I didn't know she was that, close to all these different bands when she was younger, too. There we go. All right, so on to the next song. Oh, this is another band and another song written by John Deacon. It's You're My Best Friend.
Yes, that song was written for his wife.
Yeah, which kind of plays into what we were saying earlier, considering we talked about he's very a family person.
Absolutely. And also, John Deacon on this track, he plays the keyboards on it. He plays the Fender Rhodes keyboards part on it.
I never knew that. That's on Night at the Opera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been 70s, late, early, mid 70s.
Yeah. And again, a stellar John Deacon song. Songwriting, I said the Fender Rhodes part, the bass playing. I mean, John Deacon, he has written and performed on so many great songs, and nobody's talking. More people should be talking about John Deacon.
Well, what's interesting to me about you're saying he wrote this one and he wrote the other one we were talking about is they both have very unique sounds. Mm-hmm. And one thing that Queen does that I think every big Queen fan, Tim, me, everyone, kind of agree on is that's what kind of makes them cool is every song is like a picture. It's a very different vibe. And if he wasn't writing these songs, I don't know that they would have that. Do you know what I'm saying, Tim? They have very distinct songs that they did that stand out and like they could stand on their own.
Absolutely. And the other thing is about Queen is they grew from being a progressive rock band to be like a pop band of the 80s. But they encompass so many genres of music. If you want quote unquote speed metal, yes, you could, or thrash, yes, you can have that with Queen, Stone Cold Crazy. You want funk, yeah, there you go. You've got the whole almost a hot space. You want 80s pop music, there you go. You got the Kind of Magic album. You want progressive rock, yeah, you've got Queen too. Yeah, you want sort of lazy 70s pop music, yeah, you've got that on. I don't know, the albums of that era. I mean, everything you want in the genres of music, they've sort of encompassed somewhere along the way.
And I think that's what makes them so iconic in their own way. Like, they were able to do that very well because a lot of musicians, they have their niche and they kind of stick with it. But it takes true, like, talent to be able to do so many different genres like that. And so, like, with You're My Best Friend, you know that, ooh, you make me... I don't know a more iconic opening to a song. And the way the backing, I guess the backing music, I don't know. The instruments on it are so light and the very big focus on the voice and then the change in tempo as it goes. I think this song and then A Kind of Magic Queen or A Kind of Magic earlier both just have such different sounds, but they're so cool. So, and when I was looking at songs that John Deacon wrote, I noticed that's a thing. Like, he has very unique patterns in the music that he makes. Yeah,
one of my other favorite John Deacon songs is Spread Your Wings.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
From News of the World, and that, and again, that is such a good song. And again, another Deacon song.
Now, he
also wrote "I Want to Break Free" as well.
Mm-hmm. That is one of my favorites of all time. I don't care what anybody says; it's one of my favorites from Queen. I know it's kind of one of their more overplayed songs, I guess, but I absolutely adore it. But John Deacon, if you'd like to come out of your house and join us on the podcast, I think Tim would actually pass out on air.
I'd be like, look at that, it's John Deacon. How are you doing, John?
And then you just see Tim faint when he says, hi, Tim, back. But I
met Roger Taylor once, and I sort of kept my cool-ish in the 90s. I've shook Brian May's hand. I've not actually met him. I have shook the man's hand after he did a guitar clinic and we went to the front and he didn't want to sign anything, but he shook some hands and I was there. I've shook the man's hand.
Tim debated on never washing that hand again, but decided it wasn't a good idea.
It was pre-COVID. I mean, it was, I could have got away with it.
You just look down and there's literal mold growing on your hand. I can't wash it. Roger Taylor shook my hand. All right. So back to the music at hand. Another Michael Jackson song, because I said he makes 2 appearances on this list, is Man in the Mirror.
Man in the Mirror. Now, that is a iconic song. Mm-hmm. And again, a song that's so iconically Michael Jackson. But he didn't write that song. That was written by Cedar Garrett, which is the person who co-wrote sings I Just Can't Stop Loving You from his Bad album.
Yep. The thing about it is, though, is I know he didn't write it, but for some reason when he sings it with such authentic. What's the word I'm trying to find?
Authenticity.
Whatever Tid said. Authentication. Like, we're trying to authenticate the song. No,
Joy,
whatever.
Joy, it's not an RSA token. You're not trying to log into something.
Whatever I'm trying to say. He's so genuine about the way he sings and the way he has that very almost kind of singing type thing going on in a lot of these songs where he's talking to you. I think that's what makes it so him, because you feel that there's a genuine connection with him and the song. Regardless, like you said, it's kind of interesting that he's able to do that since he didn't write it.
Yeah, and as I've said before, and I think on previous episodes, my favorite version of this is from Bad 25, the reissued set of Bad, and it's a version from Wembley where he has the gospel chorus behind him, and it's absolutely fantastic. That's your definitive version.
Well, have you ever heard the story about it was dedicated to like a 5-year-old boy or something?
No.
So there's this thing about on the sleeve, the song contains a dedication, and I am not going to try to say this person's name because it's Japanese.
Okay.
So, but it's a 5-year-old boy from Japan who was kidnapped for ransom and apparently murdered. Jackson was touring in Japan at the time and later dedicated concerts to him and had like a little dedication to him in the sleeve of the album for this song. Yeah.
I did not know that.
I had never heard that either until I started doing the episode. I was like, I don't know how I've never heard that, but that's an interesting place. But I do think, though, I have never heard a better song lyric or think a better song lyric has ever kind of spoken to the topic that we're having is, if you want to make a world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Make a change. That's correct. And if you go to the Hard Rock Cafe in Pigeon Forge, they had that up on the wall.
I mean, it's just, there's something very true about that statement. And one person who I swear embodies this message, and we love this person, it's Dolly Parton.
She 100%.
The perfect example of somebody who does this. She makes small changes in the community where she grew up that she has the ability to do. Like we talked about her literacy. We've talked about opening the businesses to give people jobs. We've talked about how much when they had the fires. I mean, she literally paid for us to get the vaccine for COVID. Like, you know what I mean?
And her imagination library where she sends out books to children.
And it's just, that seems so small, but the changes little things like that can make. And she talks about, her dad was illiterate. And so for her, literacy is important in her hometown because there were so many people who were illiterate. And so those small little changes that she makes, and I think that's why everybody kind of loves her. Yes, her music's great. Yes, she's a philanthropist. Yes, she's fabulous. But it's those little things where she takes that kind of, I can change this, so I'm going to do it, is so important. And that's why I think that reflection of her is what makes her so iconic.
Yeah.
So there we go. That had nothing to do with Dolly, the song per se, but I made it about Dolly Parton. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But I really do think it's true. At least in my mind, that's why she comes off as so iconic.
Yeah.
All right, next song. We're going to go into the country music world, but I'm sure Tim's familiar with Try a Little Kindness, Glenn Campbell. Have you ever heard that song?
I'm familiar with some Glenn Campbell songs. It's not a song that I'm super familiar with. I've probably heard it before. I'm a classic rhinestone cowboy person myself, or maybe Galveston.
So this one is from, the album was named Try a Little Kindness, so that was cool. It's a not a self-titled album, but the single is named after the album. It's from 1970s, and basically it's talking about kind of the same thing. It says, the opening says, if you see your brother standing in the road with a heavy load from the seeds he sowed, or if you see your sister falling by the way, you've just got to say you're going the wrong way, and you got to try a little kindness. So it's kind of the same thing as the last song we were talking about. Obviously, he does it a very nicer way than I just said it. But I think he wrote the song. Don't quote me on the internet. Don't come for me. I think he wrote it. Now, I know he didn't write Rhinestone Cowboy because that's a remake.
Yes, absolutely.
By what, Larry West or something like that?
I think it's an old-timey country song.
But I do love me some Rhinestone Cowboy.
Oh, that's high-end music. That's high-quality music.
Do you play that a lot in cover bands in this area?
I've never played it.
That's so weird to me because it seems like one of those songs you would play.
Yeah, I think in the realm of country, it's not quite fast enough. You might play older country songs. You play like some Johnny Cash songs like Cocaine Blues and stuff like that. Yeah. But they tend to be a bit more up-tempo, right? And Rhinestone Cowboy is a bit of a crooner.
It is. He's got that kind of speak.
Yeah, it's not one that I've really played before.
Interesting. I would have assumed that would be popular. Well, but I will say there is another Glenn Campbell song that is my favorite, though. I can't believe I didn't even think about it till right now. It's Southern Nights.
Mm-hmm. That's a great song.
Does that one get played in cover bands, or is Glenn Campbell just skipped?
No, but the guitarist who I used to be in a band with, Kenny, who we sadly lost a year or so ago, he played in a band called Southern Nights. So the whole entire band was called Southern Nights.
Well, there you go. I knew it was going to come in somewhere.
See, everything marries up, and then eventually Dolly is over the whole thing.
So she's pulling all the strings. You just see a little puppeteer up there. So one thing about Southern Nights, and that's late 70s, is it's got the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why it has that grandiose, bigger-than-life kind of sound. One day I was just Googling and YouTubing and was playing it, and I saw a little thing underneath that said that was in it, and I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. You know what I mean? After I heard it, it made complete sense. I never knew. Well,
there's a rich tradition of bands doing songs with philharmonic orchestras, and it was started with the Beatles, but everyone and their brother now has done an album with the classical musicians behind them.
I mean, that's fair. I think it's cool when artists bring out like a full orchestra. I like that sound. That's just me, though. All right. So here is the one that I said don't put this on your happiness playlist, but it's Cruel to Be Kind.
Yes, by
Nick Lowe.
Yeah, and I think Dave Edmunds did it as well.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 different versions actually. Exactly. I just picked the Nick Lowe version, but I mean everybody's heard "Cruel to Be Kind" in the right. So I'm not really sure what it means to be cruel to be kind, unless they're talking about like sometimes you have to be mean to get your point up. I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's say, for example, the example I could just think of, somebody was like a teenager was going to go out, and they were going to go out with a bad people. And they said, I'm going out, and there's nothing you can do. And then the parents know that those people are bad and are a bad influence, and they shouldn't be hanging around with them.
Tough
so the parents would say, no, you're not going out. I'm locking the doors. So, yes, it's cruel, but they are being kind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, like, because he's talking about, like, I think to a significant other in the song. So maybe he's trying to do some type of tough love type situation with her. Mm-hmm. But it's just a really cool song. And I think I've heard there's like an Elvis Costello version. There's I don't know. When I was looking, there's like 10 versions of this song. Dave Edmunds, I think Edmunds is probably the most popular one. I picked the Nick Lowe one because that's just the first one that came up when I was searching.
Yeah, I would think of not, yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily think of Nick Lowe.
Yeah. I do kind of what Tim does when I come up with these topics, and I go on my own little list and just type in kind and see what pops up. And then his version came up before Dave, so he got the mention.
There we are. No, Dave Edmunds was out of luck, sadly. He can have his saber dance, but he's not going to have Cruel to Be Kind.
Fair enough. Sorry, and if you're listening, it's not personal. Blame the algorithm. All right, so I got 2 more songs, and then I have 2 fun facts for us.
Okay.
So the next one is a classic, and it'll be my mother's favorite of this episode. It is James Taylor, "You've Got a Friend." Parentheses in me.
James Taylor. I mean, there's always a rumor that James Taylor is not a terribly nice person in real life. Oh. That's what Hannah always tells me. She always says Hannah loves James Taylor. Yeah. She always tells me that the rumor is that he's not necessarily a nice person to hang around. And certainly, I don't think Carly Simon has got anything great to say about him. But he does write incredibly mellow music, beautiful mellow music.
And he has a very distinct sound. I mean, he's probably won how many Grammys by now? Who knows? Oh,
it's unbelievable.
And so this song, I mean, "You've Got a Friend in Me," it's probably been used in how many movies? I'm just curious, guys. I'm going to look up what James Taylor's net worth is because I feel like it's a lot.
He's not hurting that I bought secondhand CDs of his in the thrift shop, let me tell you.
No. 88 million. It's not as much as I thought it was going to be. But it probably went down. I mean, I was thinking more in the 100 millions. Gosh, James.
I mean, 88 million. I mean, you can do anything you want with 88 million.
Yeah, I know. I said it like that's pennies. Tim's over here going, yeah, me with $3,000 in my bank account, but sure, 88 million's nothing. The audience out there is like, wow, Joy seemed really out of touch. He's got that car. He's got a house like Ludacris where he drives on his property, Tim, and finds the basketball court he didn't know was there. That episode. So if you guys haven't heard, I have no clue what episode it is. We need to go figure out, Tim. There's an episode where I brought up a topic, and I'm fairly certain it was Ludacris, the rapper, and he had bought property and had put a house on it. He'd lived there for a while, and he said he had so much property. One day he was driving, and he just found like a tennis court or something he didn't know was there. And me and Tim were like, he lives much different lives than we do.
I mean, sometimes I go in the fridge and realize that we actually have 2 lots of almond milk instead of 1. I mean, that happens to me sometimes.
Well, I'll have you know, Tim, I bought one of those fancy block cheeses, and I had a little bit left already. I didn't even know it was in there.
Wow. See that's the kind of thing I can get behind.
We can support that. And, it's exciting when you just want cheese and crackers. So, anyway.
Exactly. I was impressed this morning when I had some toast for breakfast, and I looked at the best before date, and it was still in date and not moldy. So, I had a morning surprise.
All right, I have to ask you a question, Tim. You brought this up. What are your feelings on Best By dates, and how seriously do you take them?
I don't take them too seriously generally. Okay. See, something like a bread, if it's a day or two after the Best By day, there may be little bits of mold on it. Because I will say, in this country, bread lasts a lot longer than it does in the UK, because in the UK they don't have as many preservatives.
I'll say it's all the preservatives we put in.
Yeah, so like in the UK, you buy like a bag of bread or rolls or something, and 3 days after the fact, there's green mold growing on.
Well, a lot of times they buy that stuff
of what
daily.
the best before date says.
Yeah.
But here, stuff like bread gets hard before it goes moldy. I will say generally, a few days after the best before date is okay, whereas Hannah has got this theory that, like, the strike of midnight, that thing gets thrown away.
That is what I was going to ask you. So there's always 2 types of people in a couple. There's the people who are lenient with their Best By days, and the one who's so serious. And my relationship is Charlie. If it is the Best By date, no, it's going in the trash. It's silly. It could be like, and I'll explain to him, sometimes they're not Best By dates. Sometimes they're By date. Doesn't care. He will not eat it. Whereas I'm like, looking, if it looks okay, it smells okay, fine, I'll eat it. If it's not like, 3 months old or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I remember reading an article one time that said that Cadbury's chocolate is designed to be perfectly edible 1 year after the Best By date. That is their goal. So a year after that date, it will not be at its best, but it's perfectly safe to eat.
Well, chocolate does that temper thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
what happens is all the milk solids rise to the top, so you get like white specking on it. Mm-hmm. Especially if you leave it somewhere where it's warm, it'll do that. But again, it's perfectly safe to eat. Yeah.
It just has a different kind of texture, and it might not be as fresh. But like, you've ever gotten you've had some Hershey Kisses, and you get to the end of the chocolate bowl or whatever, you grab the last one, you notice the texture's kind of off. It's called tempering. Now, here's the question about the Cadbury chocolate. Are they talking about the UK version or the American version that's good for a year?
I would assume the UK version, because UK Cadbury's chocolate and US Cadbury's chocolate are completely different. US Cadbury's chocolate is made by Kraft. UK Cadbury's chocolate used to be made in Bourneville in the UK, and then I think it went off to Poland somewhere, and then I think Kraft bought Cadbury's UK, and I have not tasted any for a long time, so I couldn't tell you, but I don't think Cadbury's UK chocolate is as good as it used to be.
Well, if any of our UK listeners that know Tim personally and could send him a late birthday gift, send him some Cadbury chocolate so he can tell us. All right. So off of the chocolate, the reason I asked the Best Buy thing was they say there's 2 types of people in every couple, and you answered my question. All right. So this last one is a full song, but people don't know it as a full song. You know it as the theme song to a very happy show. It is Thank You for Being a Friend from the Golden Girls.
Yes, that is a song I'm very familiar with. That's a song that Hannah likes to sing just because she likes it.
Well, it's one of the most iconic, I think, theme songs ever. And, they're a girl group. They've been friends for years. It's about thanking each other. It's so sweet. And, the show is adorable as a whole. I love the Golden Girls. Mm-hmm. Love it. But apparently it's also a full-length album. The artist was Andrew, or a full-length song. It was on an album. It's from Andrew Gold. Mm-hmm. I'm not super familiar with him. And it's from an album called All This in Heaven Too.
There we go. Yeah, I think that probably Andrew Gold retired on the Golden Girls theme.
Well, and the theme song that is we hear is a different person because it's a female. It's Cynthia Fee is her name. Mm-hmm. And then he wrote it. He did his own version for his album, but her version is what you hear on the TV show.
Fantastic, but yeah, your royalties off the back of that for repeated plays and it gets played in syndication forever. Yeah. I think the royalty checks off that one are probably worth his while.
I know. I love the part in the song where it says, invited everyone. It's if you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, well, you'd see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card would say, "Thank you for being a friend." Yeah, it's such a cute little lie. It's so iconic. That little part is one of my favorites. And then it does talk about getting older, which works for the Golden Girls because that's kind of their thing. So that was my last song. Now I have 2 facts about today, Tim. One is very specific to you. These are my fun facts to end it. Today is National Kiss a Wrestler Day. Tim actually likes wrestling, for people who don't know.
Well, let me just define what I like about wrestling. I like wrestling from WrestleMania 1, which I think was 83 or 84, up to about and around the Montreal Screwjob at SummerSlam, which was 97. I only like WWF. I don't like WCW. I don't like NWA. I don't like any of the other brands.
I didn't even know there were that many.
I only like WWF, and I want my wrestling with an F, not an E. It's WWF. I don't know where that E came from, but I don't want anything to do with that. And I like all the classic characters like Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts. I like the Macho Man. I like Iron Sheik. Those characters are the ones I like. And I especially got Peacock to rewatch all of that stuff. And I'm up to about, I think it's Royal Rumble 93 I'm up to. So I've got a few more years. It's already starting to go down the pan. Hogan leaves WWF in 93. Ultimate Warrior, I think, will be out very soon. A lot of the characters are already going to WCW. The
fact that he knows this in such detail is mind-blowing to me. Okay. So
so that's what I like. But isn't that what you say? National Kiss a Wrestler Day.
Yes. So, because the reason this episode was today was National Be Kind Day. So then I have another fact about today. It is Neil deGrasse's birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday!
And I'm fairly certain Tim is very familiar with Mr. Neil deGrasse.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Obviously, I know who that is.
Because Tim likes science and spacey things.
Yeah, and actually, in the realm of science and space today, I mean, you'll be hearing this several weeks after the record, but today was the launch of the Crew 5 missions, SpaceX, going to the International Space Station.
So what we gathered from this episode is you can be kind, you can kiss a wrestler, you can hang out with Neil deGrasse, and go on SpaceX. Got it.
Yay!
Yay! That's where we'll leave it. All right, do you have anything for the people, Tim?
As we always say, be kind.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.